Is your family tree a mystery? Are you fascinated by genealogy? Well, hip hip hooray, let's talk DNA with Julie.
The truth is in your genes.
In CutOff Genes.
Welcome to CutOff Genes, the podcast that helps you find your truth using nothing but DNA. I'm Julie Dixon Jackson, and I am a genetic genealogist, henceforth known as a Gen Genie.
And I am Richard Castle. I'm not known as anything other than the co-host and producer of this podcast.
Wah, wah.
I'm just a loser.
You're a daddy to Buddy.
I'm a daddy to Buddy, my dog. No, also write musicals. Yeah, I've got some stuff going on.
No, you're just a daddy to Buddy.
Just a daddy to Buddy.
Buddy who is passed out in the sun right now.
Thank goodness.
Yes, it's lovely. It's lovely.
It's a dog's life.
It is a dog's life.
Yeah. What's going on, Julie?
It's almost Thanksgiving.
Is it really? Again?
It seems like it happens every year, doesn't it?
I know, and always around the same time. Isn't that funny?
Yeah. What are you going to have this year?
A gig. I always work on Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's right. We talked about that.
I always play. And I used to have to go to my family's before the gig and try to eat before then, and it was just too much. So I just finally told the family,
I'm not coming.
I know, just don't count on me. You know, I've got to do a gig, I've got to work, and it's just easier than being stressed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was sort of nice to have the out, though.
I've said this before. I like working on holidays.
Yeah.
It's easier for, I don't know. That's a whole other thing.
I mean, do you cook for Thanksgiving?
No.
Yeah, I was going to say you don't.
I mean, I'd never have it at my house. We did once, and it was so stressful.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Oh, I used to, way back when I was in Ingenue, I used to work at the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood as a character. I was Ariel, the Little Mermaid.
Of course you were.
For the Lion King.
Yeah.
There was a pre-show for the Lion King.
They do a pre-show, yeah.
And I would sing a third of Part of Your World and flip my fin and then go off. That was I got paid to do that.
Yeah, flipping your fins, you don't get too far.
You don't get too far, no. But I would have to work on all the holidays. And my family, who are not in the business, my husband's family, would get so mad. They're like, how can they make you work on Christmas? It's Christmas. And I'm like, because if they couldn't make anybody work on Christmas, nobody would be able to go to the shows because there wouldn't be any actors in them.
Right.
We're notorious. Guys, we work on holidays. We're used to it. It's just what happens. Yeah. And our families suffer because we're so enjoyable to be around. But
when I was a kid, we would always go to see my father's mother, my grandmother, and my family on my father's side. Because, like I said, I was a child of divorce. So my dad always got us on Thanksgiving, my brother and myself, and he would pick us up and we would go down to New Jersey from Boston.
Sure.
And I have really good memories of Thanksgiving as a child because every year we would go down there and I loved seeing my family. And now, I'm older and I don't live near there anymore and we've all sort of spread out. So I prefer to keep it as a nice memory. Thanksgiving is a nice memory rather than to try to create a new tradition because I always end up working and it's sort of like Christmas in a lot of ways. It feels like it's for kids. I mean, maybe it isn't as much because there's no gifts and all that, but I don't know. It feels like something you really love when you're a kid, but not as much when you're an adult.
Well, I can vouch for that.
Yeah. This is just my experience.
I love Christmas decorations.
Oh yeah.
I love some good glitter. And I love when the kids are little, the whole Christmas thing.
Yes.
And I love those traditions of putting up the tree and all that stuff. But it's a religious holiday for a lot of people, and I'm not religious, so it doesn't have that meaning for me.
You're talking about Christmas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. We're talking about Christmas now.
Yeah. Because Thanksgiving, I guess it could be religious in that there's a lot of people that do the whole, the prayers and all that. You know what I see?
They do prayers?
Well, what's so interesting to me is, I play piano in a nice restaurant.
Yeah.
And there often are people that come in and say grace at the table in the restaurant. I always thought that was something so private that you would do at home if you were going to say grace. But like when I look over at a table and they're all holding hands and their eyes are closed and their heads are bowed, I mean, I guess it's sort of sweet, but it's a little, I don't know, it's a little weird for me in a public space to see that.
Yeah,
you know?
I have definite feelings about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, whatever. It's fine to be grateful and thankful for
absolutely.
the food that you have and the bounty and your lives and whatever.
The bounty. Sure. Bounty.
Wasn't there a mutiny on the bounty?
There was.
Well,
you know what else? What there was on the bounty?
What?
Chocolate.
What?
Bounty bar.
I thought, oh God, I don't know a bounty bar. But what I was going to say is I heard they had some really good paper towels. Wasn't there a mutiny on it for that?
Yes,
it was all over paper towels.
They got all the paper towels.
I think we should wisely move on to DNA news,
all
Julie.
Right, fine. Fine.
We'd be thankful for this.
Hey, guys, I'm sure most of you know that there is an app, an Ancestry app, so you can do everything on your phone. And somebody asked me to share a tree to them the other day. And I was out, and so I couldn't do it on my laptop. So I tried to do it on my app, and it was virtually impossible. The app is so different than the website that I could not make head or tails of it. So I literally had to go on Facebook and ask people to talk me through it because I couldn't figure it out. Finally, somebody said, go to your browser, go to the Safari browser, and just do it from there.
Right. So you're basically using the desktop version of the site.
Exactly. I never even, and it's so funny because I had written this down to say on the show. And just this morning, somebody was asking how to share their tree from the app again. And I was trying to do it for them. And I said, I figured it out before. I can't remember now. And then I just looked at what I had written down, and I'm like, oh, of course. So now I'll be able to do that this afternoon.
This is a good point, though, because for people who make these apps, they really should try to mimic the experience or at least the functionality of the regular website. Because if you want to use the app, because those apps can be very, very helpful when you're on a phone and looking at things in a smaller screen. But if it doesn't have the functionality, then what good is it, you know?
Yeah. That there are people like my client who I was talking to this morning, she only has a phone and an iPad.
Right.
She does everything on the app.
Yeah.
That would drive me crazy.
Yeah. Well, like I use Yelp a lot, especially for restaurants and things like that. But if you use the Yelp app on your phone, you can't search within reviews for something. Like on the website, like say I want to go to a restaurant and I want to know if they have parking, and I'm on my computer on the Yelp website, I can go and search for parking and reviews and see if anyone's talked about if there's parking or not or whatever. And but you cannot do that on the Yelp app. You can't search for a specific word in a review. There are filters, but they're predefined. But what if there's something you want to look up that isn't predefined? Like, do they have chocolate souffle?
Can I tell you? Can you imagine having this conversation 20 years ago?
No, not at all.
Isn't it amazing that we have everything at our fingertips and we still find something to complain about? Yeah.
I used to
Not that you're complaining.
No, but I used to Yelp 20 years ago. But it was like this. Ow!
Like when somebody stepped on your foot?
Yeah. And I go, ow! So it's a different thing, you know?
That's dumb. Okay.
I'm here all night, folks.
Thank you.
Try the steak.
Okay, here's a caution from Blaine Bettinger that I thought I'd pass on to you guys. And here's what it says. If you're building research trees at Ancestry, which I do a lot, and that are private and unsearchable, which research trees should be, all research trees should be private and unsearchable because they're not correct. And also you don't want to give people a heads up that you're looking for them. Other people can't see that tree. However, if you link an existing image or photo from Ancestry to a private and unsearchable tree, which is what your research tree should be, people can see that you've done that and can see you and the name of your private and unsearchable tree. So if they can see their image, if you uploaded their image to your tree, they can see who else uploaded it and what the name of the tree is. So that's just a heads up. It doesn't appear to include documents, which are also found in the same gallery, but it's not new, but a lot of people don't know that.
Well, it makes sense that like if you're doing research and you haven't like published you haven't come up with the final answer, you don't want to share that because it may not all be right, and then that can mess up other people.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, but it's not a glitch. But because if I see a picture of somebody who is definitely a direct line ancestor of my client, I'm gonna put that in that tree.
Right.
But now whoever that is can see that I put that in that tree and what that tree is called.
I see.
Yeah.
And you may not strategically want them to know that just yet.
Precisely.
Because you're not done with whatever project you're working on and what you're looking for.
Yes.
Oh, it just sounds so political. But I get it. I understand. Everything's political in a way.
Everything is timing.
Yeah.
It really is.
And lighting. Lighting is everything. Lighting and timing,
Yes. You know who has the worst lighting?
Who?
Target.
Oh, yeah.
Never try anything on a Target. It'll ruin your day. I'm here to say.
Oh, you mean with the dressing rooms?
Yes,
yeah.
I won't. Yeah, the dressing rooms. I'm sorry, I didn't mention that. The dressing rooms at Target have the worst lighting. I refuse to ever go in them anymore. I will buy things that I want to try on at home, and then if I don't like it, then I'll return it.
I have a friend who works for, I'm going to say it's Neiman Marcus, but it may be another store, like upper store, like really fancy schmancy in Beverly Hills.
I know what it is.
Yes. What is it?
It's Nordstrom.
It's not.
Oh, wow.
But whatever it is. And he says they have like special, like not just dressing rooms, but dressing like suites for the people who make appointments to come in and try it. And they have the clothes ready for them. And they'll even do it sort of like back in the days of, remember the movie The Women?
Yes, that's exactly what I was just thinking.
Where people will come out and model the clothes for them, and then they can go and try them on. It's amazing
That
to
is
me.
for the ultra rich right there.
Yes.
I mean, I can't imagine.
Oh, he's mentioned some big celebrities who have come in and had this treatment.
Okay, here's something in the news. Researchers hope DNA testing may finally prove whether bones found on a remote island were Amelia Earhart's.
Oh, wow.
How cool is that? And perhaps shed light on what happened to the pioneering aviator after she disappeared.
God, do you think they're ever going to find out? I mean, we'll find out, I
guess.
Well,
if these are hers, they will. The bones were found on Nikumuraro.
Yeah. Somewhere.
It's easy for you to say.
Somewhere in the South Pacific.
A remote island in the Western Pacific Ocean.
Right.
They were found in 1940, but it wasn't until 2018, a 2018 study, that people began to suspect that they belonged to Earhart. That's when researcher Richard Jantz re-examined their measurements and found they closely matched those of the missing pilot.
Huh.
Erin Kimmerly, a forensic anthropologist at the University of South Florida, plans to use DNA testing to confirm the theory. Kimmerly sent samples off for DNA testing and is awaiting results.
Just this week, I was listening to Sirius XM, and they have a new a Johnny Carson channel.
Oh, wow.
Which is really fun to listen to. It's just basically playing old episodes. And
I
the
like
reason
Johnny
I'm bringing
Carson.
this up is because I just happened to flip it on the car, and he was interviewing some woman who had been a journalist who knew Amelia Earhart. And this was an episode from like 1977. And this woman was very old at the time. And she was talking about how she covered all of Amelia Earhart's flights because she was famous.
Yeah.
And she said that Amelia Earhart changed women's fashion because women did not wear pants, and she could not get in and out of those little cockpits in a dress.
Oh, of course not. No.
And so that's why she was known for that little outfit. Because and she was talking in the 70s that to this day it affected the fashion for women. I thought, oh, that's such an interesting little tidbit. I never knew that.
There was I think it was on PBS. There was one about Amelia Earhart a while ago, and it was kind of downplaying her. I remember watching it going, well, that's shade. It felt like they were like the other people in the industry, and maybe it's because she was a woman, but were saying that, she was really famous because she was a woman, but she really was making mistakes that nobody else would have made. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I mean, I guess I don't know enough about her career, but she was famous enough that when she did disappear and die, disappear, that it was huge news. It wasn't just some random pilot disappeared. She was trying to fly around the world, right? By herself.
Yeah.
Or the first woman to do so.
Yes.
Yeah.
what's his name had done it already.
Yeah, the guy
Lindbergh.
Yeah.
You know, the guy with the baby.
That's sad. He was like this famous man who did this thing, this
Wow.
amazing thing, and then he's known for being, the father of a baby that was kidnapped.
He's known for other things too, but we
Yes,
won't get into
wow.
it.
Lindbergh cheese.
That's Limburger.
Oh, never mind.
Apparently, it smells terrific. That's what I heard. Okay, so whether or not the bones are positively identified as Earhart's, Kimberly says she sees this as an exciting opportunity to focus on the legendary woman's life. So the bones in question were originally dismissed by a researcher as male remains. Then, for decades, the bones were missing. Last year, a set of bones matching the characteristics of those lost in 1940 were found in a museum on the island of Tarawa, leading researchers to question whether they were the missing remains. So there's two levels of we don't even know if these are the same bones that were found in 1940, and perhaps those of the missing aviator. If the bones are confirmed to be Earhart's, the flurry of theories surrounding her sudden mysterious disappearance will be quashed, confirming that she did not die in a crash, but survived for some time as a castaway far out in the Pacific.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's fun, huh?
She thought she was on a 3-hour tour, and then she ends up...
3-hour tour was much more than that. I think she had a co-pilot.
Yeah, Gilligan. That's why she got lost.
Skipper! That's what they said on the way down. Oh, that's not nice.
That's terrible.
Okay, we should go take a break.
All right. If you're enjoying CutOff Jeans, please subscribe, rate, and review. Now, back to Julie and me.
Okay, here is a new thing that straight-to-consumer DNA testing has uncovered.
Ooh, something new.
Yes. In 2017, Holly Becker took an ancestry DNA test, and the results, she would only later learn, exactly matched those of a young man in New York.
Okay.
Her DNA. This was strange, but the test was not wrong. She really did have his DNA. So 2 decades ago, she had undergone an umbilical cord blood transplant.
Oh, my God.
To treat her non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. The anonymous donor's cells became her cells. And they still course through her body today. That is what the ancestry DNA test picked up. Yep.
That is amazing.
Yep. For nearly 30 years, donations from infant umbilical cord blood have been strictly anonymous for ethical reasons, but mail-in DNA tests have now introduced a way to circumvent the policy, which inadvertently, as in Becker's case. We just didn't think technology like this would exist. Famous last words.
There are no more secrets.
Yeah. So their connection began 25 years ago, shortly after he was born. His mom agreed to donate his umbilical cord blood, and for several years his cells lay frozen in a cord blood bank in New York. When I was a kid, when I was having my first child, saving your child's cord blood was a thing, like in case they needed it in the future.
Oh, okay.
And it was like something that was service that was offered for a fee.
Yeah.
And we thought about it, but we ended up not doing
You
it.
said, no, well, let's just save their teeth instead.
Yeah, let's just put their teeth in the drawer next to the bed.
Umbilical cord blood or teeth? I'm gonna have to go with teeth.
Yeah, I'm gonna say teeth will like hold up longer.
Teeth for 200.
Oh, thank you.
Wow. This brings up so many interesting, like, science fiction questions. Like,
Yes.
what if she did not know that she had this transfusion
Yes.
of blood, and she took a DNA test and thought she had this whole other family?
Well, she had to. That's the point,
Right?
Right.
That's
right.
so fascinating to
and
me.
this is the same thing that it's basically the same as if you had a bone marrow transplant.
Bone marrow, yes,
because
yes.
you're getting somebody else's bone marrow,
Right.
and that changes your DNA.
But I also wonder, like, if it happened to you, if this was something that you had as a child and you didn't remember it, or there was nobody around to remind you of
Well,
that.
I would think that the first thing that the company, when you called them, would say would ask you, have you had a bone marrow transplant,
Right.
or had somebody donated cord blood cells.
And then
cord
there
blood,
goes this other little theory, my little crime theory of like, so she goes and murders somebody and leaves some blood at the scene, and they do a DNA test and they arrest the wrong guy because it matches this man in another state.
Right.
Oh, it's so fascinating.
But they figured it out though, so
yes,
one would hope they would figure it out then too.
Right.
Umbilical cords are rich in hematopoietic stem cells. Which ultimately give rise to all different types of blood cells. To do the transplant, doctors would destroy Becker's own cancerous cells before infusing her with the hematopoietic stem cells from a healthy matched donor.
And this was not something where the donor had to die in order to donate.
It was just his mother donated it,
right.
and he himself never knew that had been done.
Right.
So that's when, let me see what it says about that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. When she finally spit into a tube for ancestry, she was not trying to find her donor. She didn't even know that was possible. She was just interested in her family story. But the test matched her to Patrick's mom, Danya Davy, who immediately messaged Becker when she saw a new and very close match. So close as to be mother and daughter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And so she remembered, of course, I donated my son's.
Well, you know what? The mother probably. So many people that do the DNA test, don't even know that you can match other people as relatives.
Right, because they're only doing it for some kind of
ethnicity.
Ethnicity, yes.
Correct. And so I don't know if she was one of those. Well, she obviously saw it. And did she contact her? Let's see. The test matched her to Patrick's blah, blah. Davy was adopted. Had recently found her birth family through Ancestry DNA. Oh, the mother who was adopted. Oh, had recently found her birth family through Ancestry DNA, and this new match made no sense.
It didn't match anyone else in the tree.
She knew her birth mother, and she certainly knew Becker was not her daughter.
Right.
And so they both thought the test was wrong.
But how wonderful for her to find out that
it had saved a life.
That it had saved a life, and a life that had gone on that thrived and survived. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's so wonderful.
Yes.
What a great story.
I'm surprised this hasn't happened sooner, actually.
Maybe it hasn't. It just hasn't been in the news.
Although I haven't heard much. I haven't heard about cord blood donations before. We've
heard about the bone marrow.
Preserving it. And I've heard about the cord blood being preserved for that family.
Right.
But not to be given to somebody else. But why not?
Why not? Like I said, it was matching a donor, right?
Yep. And it wouldn't be, it's much more painful to donate bone marrow than it is to donate cord blood.
Because it's out of the body and it's done, and they're just going to dispose of it.
The cord blood and the placenta are so rich in stem cells and so many things that can save so many people.
Right.
It's anyway.
Well, I told you my niece just had a baby, and we met for coffee. Well, she didn't drink coffee, but we met for I had coffee, and she sat and drank some tea and before she had the baby. And she said to me, she was so ready to have this baby. She said, it's so weird that there is this living human inside of me who could come out right now.
Yeah, at any moment.
At any moment and live and breathe and exist in the world. And I said, well, hopefully he'll wait until we're done with coffee. But anyway, and sure enough, and then I just met the baby recently and held him, and he's so beautiful.
I saw the picture. He's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's so sweet. Like I'm holding this child and going, it's so weird that this was inside of you, and like how is it's miraculous.
Try having one inside of you.
Well, I don't think I could do that.
No, you well,
science hasn't gotten that far.
Yes,
Julie.
it has.
What?
There was that guy in Oregon who had a. Oh, wait a minute. Nope, never mind.
No,
I'm wrong.
No.
Once again, wrong.
You might be thinking of somebody who was trans or something.
Yes, I was thinking of the trans man who still had a uterus.
Right.
And so, that's right.
Yeah.
Apologies.
It's okay.
Yeah. No, I was just thinking about having a human inside you the last few weeks. Can I just tell you, when you're laying on your back, you can see an entire, elbow, like just go. You can see your entire belly just go from one side to the other side.
Yeah.
And it's just.
That's freaky.
And it feels crazy.
Really?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
I can't ever know that I don't have a uterus.
No, you don't.
And I don't even have a meterus. Sorry.
You're fired.
I'm fired. It's a good thing I'm just a podcast co-host and not a stand-up comedian. Because Lord knows, I'm glad I can't hear the groans in the audience.
You could have your audience. You could. I mean, there are people that specifically like terrible jokes.
Terrible jokes. Yeah, terrible puns. I'm just glad that we're not doing this live in front of an audience. That people can be groaning at home listening to this or in the car, and I have no idea.
It's probably for the best.
It really is.
Yeah.
Because I probably would never come back and do it again.
Right. All right. So that is that story. Isn't that cool?
I think that's a really cool story. I love
right.
it. And it's a good story. It's kind of a heartworming story in a way.
Change.
Right?
It's absolutely a heartwarming story.
No horrible,
there's
God.
no awkwardness. At least everybody came out well.
Yeah, no rejection, no I don't want to see you.
It's so refreshing.
I don't want to know the person I saved, my baby saved with his stem cells or his I'm saying stem cells, but it's
yeah, well, there are stem cells in the cord blood.
Okay, whatever. It's a very nice story.
It is the end. Let's go to break.
Thank you for listening to CutOff Genes with Julie Dixon-Jackson and Richard Castle. That's me.
Okay, it is time for part 2 of my interview with Damon Davis of Who Am I Really? Remember?
Oh, yeah, he's the man with the great alliteration and assonance. I've never met the man, but I've heard he's got a great assonance. Are we cutting that?
No.
All right.
Nope. We are. It's on you.
That's all on me.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
I'm just trying to make up for my last joke that bombed.
You are digging yourself deeper, my friend.
Anyway, I'm interested to hear the next part of Damon Davis.
Me too.
Shall we listen?
Yes, let's do that. Because Anne gave you the test, did you get your results faster than most people?
That's a great question. I should have put a note on mine. The CEO gave me this.
Yeah,
I'd like for you to expedite it for me, please.
23andMe has always been pretty fast anyway. So,
yeah.
No,
they were great. They were really great. And it was just so cool, too, to see, pieces of yourself that you never might have known to ask questions about. Mm-hmm. The genetic test reveals to you so many fascinating things, like folks like you might be allergic to X, or right. One of the things for me is the seasoning or whatever you call it, cilantro.
Yes. Does it taste like soap to you or no?
It tastes like soap to me.
Not me.
I called it soap weed for the longest time because I just thought it was disgusting. And it turns out that's a genetic thing, and I never could have known that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
What about your earwax?
I don't remember what my earwax issues are.
I believe mine is wet.
They are minimal.
I thought that was such a strange thing to okay, that's good to know, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely some weird ones in there. I don't remember what they were, but thankfully I don't have any.
Oh, good. Yes. Yeah, neither do I. I'm thankful about that. How long ago was this?
So let's see. I met her when I was 36. So it must have been when I was about 37 or maybe 38 when I did this DNA test with her. Okay. And then I did another one that I can get to later when you're ready. But
of course I am.
Yeah, it was really fascinating stuff. So yeah, I was about 38 years old when I did 23andMe with Anne.
Okay. Let's talk about your paternal side.
So when I met Anne, she and I, again, had this amazing rapport. We did really well.
Oh, Anne is your mother.
Anne is my biological mother.
I was still thinking Anne Wojcicki.
Oh, yeah, no. Anne Wojcicki and I had a great relationship, too, just not one of any genetic relationship.
Yes, understood.
So Anne and I had this great relationship, and it started from a very first conversation where she said to me very openly, I've got no secrets. I'll tell you whatever you want to know.
I love Anne.
And she was great.
Yeah.
So, needless to say, as an adoptee, I immediately thought to myself, well, if you're wide open, I need to know who my biological father was. So I asked her. And she told me the guy's name. We'll call him Mr. H. And I could sense some pain from her when we talked about this guy. And she told me the story that she had been in graduate school in Detroit. She was in grad school for library sciences, and she started to date this local police officer. And when she got pregnant, the police officer said that he would help her out, whatever help means, but she could never get a hold of him. And so she called him at the precinct, and the precinct operator answers the phone and basically asks, "Oh, is this his wife calling?"
Ouch.
And now Anne knows she's in big trouble, right? So she fled the scene. She went to try to be in a place where she could get some more support. Thankfully, one of her girlfriends was in a real strong place for Anne to get some support that she needed in Baltimore, which was where I was born.
Okay.
And Anne never went back to Detroit.
Oh.
So interesting, like, there was a time when I was on a business trip after I had met Anne, and I was in Detroit, and I was so busy leading up to the trip, I didn't even think about it before I left. And I called her, and I was like, "Guess where I am?" And I said, "I'm in Detroit." And she just went dead silent.
Oh, yikes. Okay.
And she hung up the phone. She was like, "I got to go." And she was gone.
Oh, wow. That was a trigger.
It was a big trigger for her.
Yeah.
So at any rate, fast forward, Anne and I are doing just fine. And unfortunately, she starts to get ill and she dies.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. We were in reunion for about 5 years.
Okay.
And we had an amazing time. And after her passing, I realized, I can't hurt her now. Her feelings, they're gone, right?
Yeah.
I can seek this guy out. So to cut a long story short,
you don't have to.
And I didn't have any rapport with him whatsoever. I didn't like him. He was abrasive. I wasn't feeling this dude at all. And he ends up writing me a letter after I've identified myself as possibly being his son. And he was like, "I'm sorry, Mr. Davis. You're not related to me." And, my wife said that when she looked at me, I looked like a little kid who had just gotten some bad news, just like this weird, heartbroken, rejection face, right?
Yeah.
So, in an odd coincidence, my wife is the daughter of an adoptee. And so we were trying to learn more about my mother-in-law. So we all did DNA tests on Ancestry DNA. My mother-in-law is adopted. We know nothing about her. And knowing about her is going to reveal more about my son, Seth. And I'm sitting there looking at my wife's and my son's DNA tests because I'm like, I already know what my DNA says. I did 23andMe, and I get it. A whole big percentage of white, a whole big percentage of black, most of it from Africa, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't that interested when I got Ancestry.
Yeah.
So, but when I looked at my wife's and my son's on Ancestry, I was like, this is really cool. There's some, mapping that shows historical trends of people's movements across the globe. This is amazing. So I decided to go back and look at my Ancestry DNA. And as I pull up my own record, keep in mind, I've only got one son that I know of. And the platform says there's 2 parent-child relationships.
Yep.
And I'm like, what the hell? Who's this other person? So I click on it, and it says the person's initials are WW, they have not filled out their full name. And it says at the bottom, WW is your father.
Yeah. Wow.
And I must have read that line about 5 times. I could not believe it.
So you hadn't been searching for him yet?
I wasn't searching for him. So I had searched for Mr. H. This is a different dude. And so Mr. H has rejected me. And now this WW comes up. And I'm like, who the hell is this WW character?
Oh, my gosh.
It was crazy.
Yes.
Fortunately, my biological mother had introduced me to the best friend who she ran to when she got pregnant. She introduced me to her graduate school friends. So I had a network of people that I could reach out to and say, do y'all know who this WW could be? And this is where Jet Match comes in, because I reached out to her friends and they were all like, you know, I know a WW, but I can't even place Ann and this guy in the same city at the same time. Like, I can't conceive of how this guy would be your biological father. So while I'm trying to figure out who this person could be, I download my genetic data from 23andMe and I upload it to GEDmatch. When I did that, this guy's name comes up, and I realize that this guy, William White, is the name I'm looking for. So now I can turn to my mother's friends and say, I have a name. This guy, one of my mother's graduate school friends said, yeah, I know William White. We used to hang out with that dude all the time. He invited us over for football games. Like, all the black kids in graduate school hung out together. It was, you know. And so now finally I've got somebody who knows who this dude is. I reached out to the administrator of his account because they basically had done a big family project and included him. And they were my intermediary in interacting with him. So I sent him an introductory letter. He reveals to me that he lives in Las Vegas. Purely coincidentally, our family was leaving, I kid you not, the next day after that conversation for Los Angeles. So I was like, we're going to be in your neighborhood. Can we think about getting together? And he was like, sure, let's talk. So we extended our vacation out there, and I flew to Las Vegas, where I come face to face with my biological father, who at the time I think was 86 years old, not a wrinkle on his face, taller than me, gave me a big, huge hug, like squeezed me in tight, was really receptive. It was just totally the opposite experience of the rejection that I had had with Mr. H.
Yeah.
And we had an amazing connection. What was really funny about him, too, was, believe it or not, he was into genealogy as well.
Wow, you hit the jackpot.
He takes us from the airport, and we go to his house. We sit down at his kitchen table, and he unfolds a massive set of papers and documents and things like that with pictures, you know, years of birth, date of death, marriages, everything. And he spreads out our entire paternal family history all the way back to the days of slavery. So I had two biological parents, both of whom were genealogists, and both of whom I was able to interact with through genetic testing.
So did he remember your mother?
He did.
Okay.
He did. I was very thankful for that, because the prior guy did not. And I was so irritated with him because he said it very like, I don't even remember your mother.
So the prior guy was the cop, though, right?
The prior guy was the cop.
So she just made a mistake.
Yeah. My best estimation is she was probably with my biological father one Super Bowl Sunday, I think.
Okay.
And then she probably started dating this cop, you know, a couple of weeks later. And of course, if you got pregnant, you're going to associate your pregnancy with the last person you were with, not the person before that. I think that was probably her mistake. Yeah. And sadly, she died before I found this mistake.
Oh, and she didn't even know.
She went to her grave thinking that my biological father was this horrible person for which she had to avoid an entire American city.
Oh, wow.
And that wasn't even it. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Who Am I really past 100 shows probably 3 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And as I reflected, thank you, I was just thinking to myself, this is bananas. Every single one of these astonishes me every time. And some of it is happy. Some of it is sad. Some of it is like, I can't believe human beings are this horrible to other human beings.
Oh, yeah.
But every single story is just a shocker.
Every single one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So true. So you have since written a book, right?
Yes, I did. Similarly titled, Who Am I Really? An adoptee memoir. And I chronicle the whole story because I've told you the basic premise of what happened here, but the nuances of my internal thought processes and the nuances of, losing my adopted mother to, mental illness, and the death of my adoptive father, and, just every piece of what transpired in between. I gave you the 30,000 foot version.
Yeah.
The story as written is really just fascinating. I had a really cool experience recently. I was flying across the country, and this woman sitting next to me says, "Oh, shoot, I finished my book." And this is before we took off, and I always carry a copy of my book with me. And I handed it to her, and I was like, this is probably going to be weird for her to read the life story of the guy sitting next to her. But she took it, and like 3/4 of the way through, she was like, wow, this is really a page turner. And so she finished it before we got across the country. And we talked about it for the last half hour of the flight. It was really amazing.
Where can people find your book?
My book is available on Amazon.com. You can find it. It's called Who Am I Really? An Adoptee Memoir. You can also go to whoamireallypodcast.com, click shop, and you can be redirected there. You can also find episodes from other adoptee stories from across the United States and really around the world.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I love listening to it.
Oh my gosh, I love it too. It's so fun.
Yeah. Damon, thanks. Thanks so much.
My pleasure, Julie.
So good to talk to you again.
You too. And you've sort of reinforced for me that I probably should spend some time going back in my show and doing a Where Are They Now? Because if there's anything I've learned about these adoption stories, that, you and I are capturing them at a moment in time.
Absolutely.
And, people are still going to live their lives, and events are going to happen with their biological family and their adopted families well after they speak with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is also an important piece. I hope I can find the time and continue to have the energy to go back and recap some of these stories based on what has transpired since they were captured the first time. So
yeah, that's a great idea.
I'll be coming back to you one day, Julie.
Please do. I appreciate it. So, guys, the podcast is Who Am I Really? You can find it where you find our podcast, probably all those same places except for the website. Damon Davis, thank you so very much for talking to me. I can't wait for the listeners to hear your story and to also get a chance to listen to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Julie. I appreciate the time. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right. Thank you, Damon Davis. Guys, check it out. Check his podcast out. Check his book out. He's awesome. We love him.
So before we sign off, Julie,
yes?
I'm going to be out of town next week.
You're abandoning me.
I'm abandoning you. I'm going to New York for a theater conference.
Who's going to take care of Buddy?
Oh, he'll be fine.
Oh, he's going to crate him.
He's got
leave him with some kibble.
he's actually going to be going to doggy daycare.
Oh,
yes,
right.
While I'm gone, and he'll be fine. Hopefully,
Look at the way he's staring at you right now.
I know. I'm more worried about the other dogs than Buddy.
Yeah, he's pretty fierce.
But anyway, so I hope that when you're going to do a very special episode.
Yes, we're having a very special episode next week, like an after-school special.
It does sound like that.
Yes.
Next week, a very special episode.
Yeah,
It's
actually gonna be a crossover episode. There's another podcast called Everything's Relative.
Okay.
With Eve Sturgis, who is an MPE, and we're gonna sit down and have a little conversation, and it's gonna crisscross with both podcasts. So on ours, on hers, she's going to interview me, and vice versa.
Oh, how great! I can't wait! I can't wait to hear this episode without me.
Yeah, it'll be refreshing. Really? No, I kid.
No. And then when I come back, we will have the special component that we've been teasing for the last couple of weeks. We have a special
new component that's happening with the podcast, you guys. So we're excited about it.
In
we hope
2 weeks, we'll be launching it right for you guys.
Launching.
And anyway, so I will say for
adieu.
The rest, adieu. I'm Richard Castle. I have a website, richardcastle.com, and you can follow me on the Twitter @CastleSongs.
I am Julie Dixon Jackson. You can follow me on the Twitter @Jules Jackson with 2 O's. Follow the podcast on the Twitter as well @CutOff Jeans Pod. Join the Facebook group. That was fun. CutOff Jeans Podcast. Email me, JulesJackson @cutoffjeans.com. Check it out. All right.
I'm going to keep one thing with me when I go to New York.
Your jeans?
Yes.
You know why?
Why?
The truth is in your jeans.